Well, it's just about time for the second jewel of the Triple Crown. The Preakness just a few days away. Andy Serling, Mike Beer, and of course the big question is going to be whether or not American Pharoah can win the second leg of the Triple Crown, come to Belmont seeking a Triple Crown. And it's an interesting situation because we didn't get new shooters of any major merit, though we'll talk about one who's a pretty nice horse. Yep. And we have the big three, in fact 4 of the first 5 finishers coming back from the Derby. The biggest change from this Kentucky Derby, and we're taking a look at it right now, is the post positions are reversed. American Pharoah, instead of getting that comfortable outside post, which he used to his advantage, he breaks on the inside. Dortmund is going to be outside of him, and Firing Line can play the hunter in this race. Do you think the post position is going to dramatically affect things in this race?
You know, I really didn't think that it would. I understand that being down on the rail for American Pharoah, I guess, opens him up to the chance that he could be race-ridden a little bit in this race. But to me, and I get and I appreciate all the extra analysis that goes into races like this, to me, having the rail in a 2-turn route race is never a bad post position, especially for a horse like him who has speed. He is not a slow horse. He's going to come running out of there, and I think he's going to land in another very good trip in this race.
Well, it's 2 schools of thought. I mean, if you're one of these people that thinks the ground loss, and he had significant ground loss in the Derby, is very meaningful, and now he gets the rail, you simply think, well, he has to cover less feet, and he's going to win by more. And if you feel that's the case, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it, I know that's not all you think, but there is an argument, and you're sort of stating part of that argument, that he'll just have to cover less ground, and why wouldn't he win by more if he covers less ground? And that's a viable argument. I just don't particularly agree with it necessarily in this situation.
Yeah, it's just, to me, to me, the ground loss is rather insignificant, and I don't even know that he'll be riding the rail the entire way in this race. But I like him breaking from the inside. All he has to do is break cleanly, and he's fast enough to go forward from there. He doesn't have to go right to the front, but he's fast enough to go right to the front if he needs to do that, and Dortmund and Mr. Z aren't going. If they do go, you know, there's nothing wrong with sitting in behind those horses for a while and then getting out to the clear at some point. If you can't handle that kind of a trip, if you can't sit in behind horses and take a little dirt and maybe have a horse to his outside for a while and he can't overcome that, then he's just not very good.
Yeah, and I really want to see him to do it. I want to see American Pharoah overcome some adversity. Yeah. Because we've already made it clear he's a very talented horse. And the people out there that are disappointed in his Derby because he didn't sprout wings and he had to have a hard ridden to win the race, they had unrealistic expectations about the horse going in. And so because they had unreal expectations, they're now disappointed. That's not a rational way to look at it. Yeah. He showed in the Derby that he is very much the horse to beat in this crop. But he also showed that there isn't a big difference between him and Firing Line and Dortmund and perhaps a Materiality who unfortunately isn't running in this race. My feeling is we have never seen him overcome even an iota of adversity, save his first start where he wasn't able to get the lead and he folded. Now, clearly he's a better horse than he was that day. But when you're able to sit that comfortable trip outside, taking no dirt, being the hunter, and then you have to switch fields, and you become the hunted, and you're placed inside, and a horse like Firing Line gets to get that comfortable outside post, and Firing Line only lost to him by a length, and he was battling back, and he wasn't changing leads. Yeah. He's got Gary Stevens. He's got the right real estate in the outside, and I think Firing Line, getting that post, will turn the tables in this Preakness.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be an interesting tactical race, I think, in the early stages, especially between those 3 horses, the ones that ran 1, 2, 3 in the Derby, because they all are fast enough to be up on the pace again, and you might just see the 3 of them. They went 1, 2, 3 around the track in Kentucky. They might go 1, 2, 3 around the track in this race too. We'll see which one goes to the lead and which one tries to take up the tracking position. My thinking with the Derby was that, yeah, American Pharoah got a very good trip. He was wider than the other 2. He still got a very good trip in that race. The other 2 horses got very good trips as well. I thought Dortmund had a very soft trip. I thought Firing Line had a very soft trip. American Pharoah was still able to close them down through the stretch. He's better than these horses, maybe only by that much, though.
Yeah, I want to see it. I think it's possible you're right that he is a little bit better than these horses. But I think that it's under circumstances in the Saturday's Preakness where he's going to have to be more than a little bit better than him. And I think the post position change will be different. Now, listen, if Dortmund's able to clear, as their pace projector suggests he possibly will be able to, and American Pharoah can extract himself from the likes of Mr. Z, perhaps Bodhisattva, and also Dividing Line, who Rada will get to, if he can extract himself from them and somehow set up outside of him going the first turn, the race may be over 3/16 to a quarter mile in the race. Because if they head the first turn, they're not going that fast, and American Pharoah is able to comfortably get outside of Dortmund, then all of my supposedly brilliant thoughts are thrown out the window, and it's just another bad opinion.
Right.
But even if that happens, firing line's outside of him, and firing line will be attacking him when he makes his move. So unless American Pharoah runs sort of a funny side or a Smarty Jones Preakness, where he runs considerably better than he did in the Derby, which he very well may, then I think you're going to find a dogfight, and I always want the horse on the outside in that dogfight. I think he'll have the advantage. I don't think it plays out that way. I think they have to be aggressive from the start. Victor Espinoza, he's under some criticism for how hard he rode him in the last race. He's going to have to get him in that position to turn. Also, Mr. Z, don't forget that Mr. Z's got a new rider in Nakatani who's very aggressive. He's been sold. Lucas wanted to run in this race. The other owners, the same owners, of course, American Pharoah, the Zayats, they didn't necessarily want to run here. Maybe they want to be aggressive with him because in time he has speed. Maybe he puts American Pharoah in a tough spot. There are scenarios where American Pharoah, as the hunted, gets a tough trip.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with Mr. Z, because when I look at him, and, listen, I guess there could be some question as to what he even has left at this point. He's done an awful lot of racing, and it does feel like he might be heading the wrong way. But to me, his best races are when they go and they get him involved, and he likes a good fight. They have to go with him, and maybe he's just not good enough. Maybe he can't even make the lead in this race. I feel like they're going to at least try it, though, and they're going to be up there, and I think they're going to be part of this pace on Saturday.
I agree. I think he's a key to the race in a funny way.
So
not
too.
That I think he can win. I think he should be running in the Penn Mile in a few weeks and a mile on the turf, and Wayne will probably run him in there as well, prep for the Belmont. I just think this is a pace that, unlike the Derby, which was on the fast side of par, but on the slow side of Derby fast, is going to be much, much faster. I think that works in the favor of firing line. I also think it works in the favor of Danzig Moon. I wasn't a Danzig Moon fan at all going to the last race. And a lot of people on Twitter asked me about him. And I think they were right. He certainly outperformed. He took a big step forward. I also feel because of the nature of the pace, he was closer than he wants to be, and it took away any strong closing kick he could have. In what may be a faster-paced race, the improved Danzig Moon we saw in the Derby, he may be able to sneak in there and get second or third. You don't agree? I think it's possible.
Yeah, to me, he's not a horse that makes that much sense. I don't really like any of his races. I didn't think he did any significant running at all in the Derby. I understand the thinking that maybe he catches a fast pace. He's last at the top of the stretch and he comes running late, but I don't see any of that in his PPs. I've never seen him make a big late run in any of his races.
Well, I just feel like his last race is such an improvement, and he's a horse that can sit back and do better, and I think Julian would be more. Julian's always happy sitting farther back. Yeah. Let's talk about the new shooter Divining Rod, because this is a talented horse, and he's obviously from the same connections that Barbaro. He's coming off an absolutely perfect trip win by Julien Leparoux, who rides, of course, Danzig Moon that we just talked about. He gets Javier Castellano for here. In this race, he was able to comfortably rate at a gold rail behind them and swing out and get it done. Can he take another step forward in this race and be a factor?
I think he can. He's going to have to, and he's not only going to have to take another step forward. It's going to have to be a pretty big one, I think. Right now, he's just not fast enough to go with the top three in here. I like him an awful lot as a horse. I think he's pretty good, and I think there might be a race down the line where he will eventually find the improvement that he needs. I don't know if he's going to be able to find it on Saturday.
I agree. It's not going to be easy, and I'm taking a shot putting Danzig Moon second here. It's not going to be easy to crack the big three. We haven't really talked about Dortmund.
Yeah.
Let's talk about him quickly. Why are things going to be better? Because I think he's your top pick.
He is.
Why are things going to be better for him with a 16th of a mile less than the Preakness?
I don't know that they are. Here's what I do know about Dortmund, and I will say that to me, he was the biggest disappointment of anybody in the Kentucky Derby. Considering the trip that he got, where he was on the lead, in control, without that much pressure, frankly, all the way up the backstretch, I didn't care for the way that he just sort of let the other two horses go by him in the stretch. And I don't think he fought back that hard in there. To me, it wasn't his best race. My thinking is, going into that race, he was faster than American Pharoah going in. And I thought he was, in a lot of ways, the horse to beat in the Kentucky Derby. I just didn't think he ran his race that day. And I'm just hoping that, there was a little talk that maybe he colicked before the race. And, I don't know how you can really factor that into your handicapping because there's no way to really quantify how much it affected him. But if it affected him at all, that could be an excuse for him. And if he's back to closer to 100% on Saturday, I think he might be a little bit tougher in this race. I'm hoping that he is anyway.
I can't argue that before the Derby, he was as good as anybody. He does not come out of the Derby. He comes out of the Derby with as much to prove as anybody in his next race because he had no excuse. And that's why I put him third in this race. And yeah, I'm trying to beat American Pharoah. I like Firing Line. I'm betting him to win. Firing Line is my top selection. Danzig Mood putting him for second. And I'm using Dortmund third. Yes, if I'm playing tries, American Pharoah will be in the third spot. But I'm trying to beat him. Getting him out of the try is how I'm going to cash. I am against American Pharoah in this race from a betting standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not as against him as you are. I don't want him on top in this race. I want Dortmund on top in this race, and I'm just hoping he can turn the tables. Firing Line was a tougher call for me. I think he is a good horse. I think he will get the good trip in this race, but to me, he's had nothing but good trips. He's been in battles with Dortmund twice and American Pharoah once. He's come out on the short end of the stick all 3 times. I want to see him win one of these races, Andy.
I think that's a very, very fair argument. He's showing he's got to get it done against these horses, but he's close enough to do it.
Yeah.
I tell you, the more I think about the Preakness, the more excited I get, and I got a perfect hedge. If I'm wrong and American Pharoah wins the race, we'll have a triple crown here and a lot of excitement. That does it for Mike and I.